gender is a human construct. And in recent ages, with witnessing all of this revolution and movements, we do see that people are not really happy with the limitations that gender roles would put on their identity. Having an identity would mean the occupation you do, that is the way you contribute to the economy, and the things that you're known for. And well, if gender is deciding that, then I guess that will put you into certain limitation. We have seen this in history since the progression of time, that women doing jobs that they're not ideally supposed to do, and men doing jobs that they are not ideally supposed to do. Well, this means that we need to really see up close the evolutionary changes. And well, this uncertainty in the application, let's say, of the gender role, because the way that religion would decide gender role to be at its place and its application not really being there, well, it causes some sort of an uncertainty in the society. And well, this uncertainty would put humans in, well, uncertainty. People try to describe gender with a lot of various ways, one of them being the biological way. And I'm not here to tell you that how it's very irrational and not logical to define that, since we see progression in time, which obviously has people which would automatically fall out of the gender role, which is the ideal conservative gender role. But I'm here to tell you that there is some truth to the biological level of it, and well, there is other things that science has to offer to you as an explanation to gender. Let's talk about the biological way and the issues with understanding the biological way by the society. You might have heard about the natural selection. Human gene is a, well, being an organism, it would have encoded information to prone you to reproduce again and again. And well, men and women have different gametes, and the nature of these gametes are respectively. Men have unlimited gametes and women would have limited gametes. So men can probably just go around really driven by the urge to reproduce, and women, they know that they will have to go through a vulnerable period, and well, they have their certain ways of functioning, which is, well, seeking for a man who is at least, or not at least, but it would create a hierarchy in all the men which they compete under. So they would give you, so you can select basically the most men that have the most ideal traits, like aggression or competence, basically dominance. So you know that he can provide you with resources, right? Living conditions, basically, etc. and etc. And well, this would establish ideal traits, right? So ideal traits for men and ideal traits for women, and this will also establish the way that these people really seek out for sex, right? So, well, we're coming back to natural selection. The traits that were the best accepted by the nature, which was the ideal traits of each gender, would live on, would be selected by the nature, and the ones which would not really match up to that trait would automatically die off, because these people would not get to reproduce. These people would not get selected by a mate. So this biological way kind of explains the way, or the way that humans functioned evolutionarily. So this was the biological explanation. But when it comes to seeking an explanation on a cultural level, then there's a problem. Because if we look at humans and their most two closest primates, one of them is patriarchal in nature and one of them is highly matriarchal in nature. So what are humans? Are we patriarchal or are we matriarchal? Right, so there you see a problem with just the biological explanation, because it is not enough. Okay, it is the truth. It would determine the way that humans function, but till a certain level, which is true for humans on a biological level is not necessarily true for a human on a cultural level. Well, this tells you that you cannot just simply go on with an explanation which is biological nature and explain humans and just the things concerned with humans, and in this case, gender. You just really can't. Some people say that, well, this is my biological way of living. Well, biology is literally made in this way. Well, your biology is also trained for murdering people, but culturally it's unacceptable. So, well, it's not just the right explanation. Let me introduce you to the concept of memes. This is not the internet meme, though the internet meme is derived from this original word meme. This means that, well, when the biological traits were dictating the natural selection, then the memes are just the parallel of um, the biological. So the way the biology was dictating the information being carried forward in time with the help of reproduction, now memes were doing it. Now memes were deciding what and who is the fittest individual. So well, this explains you why evolution really went away, in which women went from being very um, caring and sensitive, and men evolved from being aggressive and competent. And this exactly is important to understand, that the biological explanation is not nothing, because it explains a lot of things, but it's not everything, because it would only constitute a certain percentage. And also, the biological way does not have a lot of things in it which are stereotypically stereotyped with the gender because of the culture. Like certain colors, certain way of functioning, which does not really explain the biological traits, like the color pink being with women doesn't explain it in a biological way, because the color pink is really just a color. It doesn't really has a meaning to it, but culture is what adds meaning to it. So it tells you that, well, there is truth to the biology, but then women are also conditioned culturally since ages or historically to be a certain way, because they were expected to be a way and they were raised in a way. And it is a very famous debate of nature versus nurture, which tells you that, well, something is naturally determined, which is biologically, or it is nurture, which is the conditions. That some biological truth is not all the explanation it has to give. So I would just say that if you want to create an environment, let it be an environment which is free from all cultural dogma, so that you're able to provide these people, or even us all who are living in this elusivity and uncertainty, to really figure out who we are and express them and embrace that, rather than just being biased because of the way that culture has been functioning since ages, and now you want to impose the same thing, but evolutionary it's obviously not true. So as a conclusion, I would like to say that the biological explanation, on a biological level, it is true, but then the development does not only mean someone's biological makeup. It also needs, well, a socio-cultural level on it too. Like we explain memes. So it tells you that the behavior is just not determined by the biological nature. It's not just it's not just. And we see all these people going around by describing the behavior using a biological explanation. It's not it. See, if you want to describe an instinct, that why is curiosity a thing in human beings, that is a biological need, to be honest. Instinct, curiosity is an instinct, and it is an biological explanation, that you need to know certain things for your survival, right? So it has a biological explanation to it. curiosity is biological, but nobody would have ever guessed that. And this is the approach you take on things when you use biological explanations. You don't really determine the behavior as such as a biologically explainable behavior, because it's not just that. You need There's no way that a behavior can be explained by just the biological the biological makeup of a person. There has to be a sociocultural layer on it. When stop forming your opinions or forming the science on the basis of your bias. You don't have to take a bias and then cultivate the entire argument in your direction. You need to do it the way around. You need to have the facts and then cultivate the entire argument. You don't have to be biased to cultivate an argument towards a direction. You need to be truthful to the cultivation of an argument. It doesn't have to be on either side, or doesn't have to be on your side necessarily. It might not even be on either of the side. It might be in the middle somewhere with all the nuances in it. Because being a psychology student and the amount of psychology I've learned so far, well, it tells me that the biological explanation stripped of everything else is just very plain and very simplistic for humans to understand. Like, I get it that everything puts this uncertainty to the entire gender role thing. I get it. And then you would, use human race, we would use logic to explain it, but the thing is that we are prone to produce a simplicity in the explanations, right? Why did this happen? Because we are prone to produce simplicity, and well, it's simple, and hence it's very easy to sell it, you know, because well, people would understand simple, people would pick up on simplicity. And I'd say that this is, well, sure, but here you're prone to use the facts and even your own thought processes towards the bias. You would use the simplicity to suit your bias because, well, that's what the world has been living into, and it's completely acceptable. And it's not acceptable, it's completely understandable, right? But the thing is that human behavior is not so simple, and you need to, or we as human society need to really abolish the simple approach towards defining well gender in this era, because there is gender elusivity, and I don't think so simplistic approaches can fix it, because why would you want to get simple? And another reason is that because of it being simple, people just can utilize it for suiting their own biases. Like, obviously, that's all my rant. And if you like this little educational journey, you can join me so we can go on this educational venture together, because well, I think that is what you're gonna get. Like, I want to explore and like learn more with my audience, if that is possible. You can follow me in my socials if you want to. I don't really do much, but I might.